Welcome back to the Fanboy Cantina. This is our review of Dune Part 2, and we're going to try to go as spoiler light as possible. Speaking as someone who didn't particularly enjoy Dune Part 1, Dune Part 2 is an epic, visually stunning reminder of why we go to the movie theater. To be upfront about it, I have not read the Frank Herbert books. I did have them as a kid, but I just was not inspired to pick them up. And I have seen David Lynch's Dune, and that movie did nothing to inspire me to pick up the books. As for Dune Part 1, I took issue with the pacing and certain tropes that felt really tiresome in 2021. And for all of the time setting up the world, Part 1 for me ended somewhat abruptly on the cusp of telling the story of the Fremen. Dune Part 2 picks up immediately from when Dune Part 1 ends. If you haven't seen Dune Part 1 ever, or if it's been a while, it's well worth a rewatch before seeing Dune Part 2, as certain moments or characters or expressions may be missed. I'm surprised there's not a last time on Dune or type of featurette, since it picks up immediately from the Dune Part 1 ending and then just keeps going. Visually speaking, Dune Part 2 is a masterpiece. There are moments that feel like a painting by H.R. Geiger and Ralph McQuarrie blended together, yet with its own uniqueness. In 2023, we saw too many movies with bloated visual effects budgets that were, at best, a shaky crutch to lackluster storytelling. In this case, the visual effects are simply captivating. There's a moment in the very beginning where Harkonnen's men are flying up from a sand dune, and it's so simple and so short, yet flawlessly executed. And it's a moment where it lets you know that the rest of the movie is just going to be spectacular. Performances are excellent. Timothée Chalamet's performance is compelling as the central character Paul Atreides, a young outsider reeling from the events of Dune Part 1 that evolves into becoming a leader. At over 2.5 hours long, that affords enough time for the star-studded cast to develop and shine, which is a tall order considering the cast includes Zendaya, Rebecca Ferguson, Javier Bardem, Austin Butler, Stellan Skarsgård, and Dave Bautista. As one of the new characters, Austin Butler is terrifying as the Baron Fade Rotha, a chilling killer that thrives on desire and ambition. The only casting that I had an issue with was Christopher Walken. Now, I love Christopher Walken, and it's great to see him on the IMAX screen, but his voice reminded you that this is Christopher Walken. There's a lot to unpack about the story itself, and I don't want to get into spoilers here, but I really enjoyed this movie. Certainly, there are broad themes of empires and kingdoms and religion, but you also have themes about colonialism, religious fanaticism, power and influence. The story feels a little rushed in the final quarter of the movie, so I hope there may be a director's cut or maybe some deleted scenes to help visualize some of the gaps, or maybe this is where the books would help. For the criticism of the white savior trope in the Dune franchise, I think the story here, and I don't want to get into spoilers, offers a lot to unpack and perhaps challenge that theme. Dune Part 2 deserves to be seen on the best and largest screen that you can possibly find. It was a thrill to watch it in IMAX. For my criticism about Part 1 ending awkwardly, Part 2 ends on a satisfying note, completing this part of Paul's arc. Though there's enough shared here that it sets the stage for a third Dune movie. So I thoroughly enjoyed Dune Part 2. Highly encourage you to check it out in the theaters while you can. Post in the comments, what did you think of Dune Part 2? Did you like it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Post in the comments. We would love to hear from you. As always, thanks so much for watching. Please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. This has been the Fanboy Cantina.